Okay, so we're going to go over the quiz, over all the questions, over common mistakes and points, and then any questions you may have. So for number 1, you had to find the slope. Most of you, got this right. If you're thinking about your point bucks, this is a horizontal line, so the slope should have been 0. Whether you put the number or the word did not matter. If you put anything else, you did not get that correct. Questions on that one? Okay. For the next one is where we have some issues. You should have set this up 5/7 minus 3/5. Go back to this. All over 4/3 minus 2/3. Some of you switched these. As long as you switched them both, that was fine. Some of you mixed an x and a y, which should not have happened. All the y's should be in your numerator. All of your x's should be in your denominator. If you only switched one set of these, but didn't switch the other, you ended up with a negative instead of a positive at the end. Then you needed to get common denominators for your numerator fractions by multiplying these by 7 and these by 5. Most of you chose those approaches. To get 25/35 minus 21/35. Some of you simplified this here or weighted. And then just subtracted the numerators to get 4/35 all over 2/3. All of that work should have been shown by hand. If you did not show all of that work or missed any of that, you missed points. At this step, you could have either done this by hand or in the calculator. So this bottom fraction and flipped it and multiplied to get 6/35 or 12/70 when you simplify to 6/35. So the 3 points there were, did you set up the original correctly, all of your work, and then the final answer.
How can we multiply how can you go and put the 2 over 3, and then how can we only multiply the 4 over 2? Why not 35 over 4?
So here when you divide fractions, what it automatically does is take the denominator fraction, flip it, and multiply. So if you were to put this in the calculator, this is what it's doing. That's why you end up getting the same answer. If you flip this and multiplied it, you would still end up with some fraction. It would not be simplified, and it would not work. Other questions on that one?
So you just multiply the denominator?
Denominator, always, yes. Okay. For our x and y intercepts, most of us were good here. As long as you wrote these x-intercepts, it did not matter the order in which you wrote them. Not negative, but these needed to be x and then y. If you put y and then x, that was incorrect. But as long as you had those 4, doesn't matter in the order which you wrote these 3, that you had them, you got all 4 points. If you mixed any of the x's and y's, or put them in the wrong spot, you missed points. Questions on that? Or if you didn't write them as order pairs, you missed points. Forward was hit or miss. Some of us got this, some of us did not. The y-intercept did not need work because it's given to you. You just had to write it as an order pair. The x-intercept, you need to know that f of x is the same thing as y. So whether you chose to rewrite that as y or just change it. When you're looking for an x-intercept, your y value has to be 0. So you should have put 0 into f of x or y, change one of those, and solve it. of you divided both sides by -5/2, which I accepted, but moving forward, we need to take it and flip it and multiply it. To get positive 20/5, which was 4. So the 3 points on that one were, did you do the work to get the x-intercept correct? And then did you get the 2 intercepts correct? Yes.
Do you have to put 0 equals, or do you put y?
So if you put y equals, that's fine to start, but you still have to put 0 equals, because that's how we solve the equation. Other questions on that one? And then let me know when you're done. On the back, for graphing, you could have done this problem in 2 different ways. So I'm going to show both, but you should have only done one of them. One of them was solving this for slope-intercept form. Get rid of the 2x by subtracting on the other side and divide everything by -3. I forgot this line was over here, but to get y equals 2/3 x plus 2, where we have a y-intercept of 2, and then we would go up 2 to the right 3, excuse me. So if you did it this way, you should have as many points as possible. If you solve by x and y intercepts, so let's say you solve for x-intercept, you covered up the y term, looked at what was left, and solved for both. So that you would have just your x and y intercept at 2 and 3, you would have only had 2 points. So if you're solving for x and y intercepts, you should only have 2 points in your line. If you're solving for slope and y intercept, you should have as many points as possible. There should not be a mixture of the 2. Questions on that?
So are we supposed to do minus 2x? Right?
It doesn't matter. You can do it either way. You just can't put more than 2 points if you're doing it this way.
Oh, so it was based off the math that you did.
Correct.
That you
Correct.
that's what it was.
I think you just like, I think you still has some better for y. I think you just like put that down instead of solving all the time.
This part.
Yeah, no, so like you got home was the, oh, never mind, I'm taking it wrong.
Okay. Any other questions on that? So the 2 points on that one were however you solved that math and did your graph match your math. 6 was hit or miss. Some of you got this, some of you did not. If this is an x equals, this should be a vertical line at 3. So if you did a horizontal line or didn't draw a line and just put a point, you missed points. Questions on that? Seven, there were some of us who got all the points, some of us did not. So there were 5 things you were supposed to do. Plot the y-intercept, plot 2 additional points on the graph, then describe how the function was translated. So the 2 things that happened, the slope got steeper by 2, and the y-intercept was shifted down 3. So if you miss any piece of that, like you didn't put the slope or the y-intercept, you miss points. If you didn't use your transformation words, steeper, less steep, shifted up or down, you miss points. If you didn't put the direction for the y-intercept shifted up or down, you miss points. If you didn't put the number, you miss points. So there are a bunch of different ways to miss points on those to make sure you're describing accurately. And then on this, if this is the original, your new y-intercept should be down 3. And then you just needed 2 other points. I'm going to draw all of the other points you could have had, but you only needed 2 of them. So any of those red points, as long as you had 2 of them, you should not have had more than 3 points total. Sorry.
When the slope is steeper, is it just the denominator of 1?
Yes.
I got -4, so I put too many 4s.
You're not following directions. Other questions? Okay. So pay attention to how many points it's asking you to plot. It said don't graph a line, so if you still graph a line, you are not following directions. This one, there was a typo. This was supposed to be 8. There was some confusion there, but some of you figured it out. This one is based on this graph. If you were comparing the original, which I'll draw, you're comparing the one that's already graphed to the original. The slope is for this one. If you find points that cross the grid lines exactly, the slope would be 1/2. And then the y-intercept compared to the original is down 4.5. So then B and then C. Those are either right or wrong. You either got those or you didn't. Questions on those? Do you have any other general specific questions about anything test related? If you have something specific that maybe you can't read, I will come around and answer those questions.